According to the Georgetown Public Policy Institute, by 2020, 65% of all jobs will require some type of post-secondary education or training. The United States is becoming more and more educated, and this is apparent by looking at previous years. In 1973, only 28% of all jobs were held by those with some type of college degree. In 2010, only 59% of all jobs were held by those with post-secondary education. However, this is not an option for all people due to the increasing cost of a college education. Over the years, funding for higher education has gone down while tuition has gone up. This is a serious problem and needs a feasible solution. And if a solution is not met, higher education will become increasingly less accessible for students. In 2007, the Great Recession hit the United States, which caused many budget cuts, one of the greatest being in higher education. A decade later, state funding is still down by $9 billion from 2008. Considering that in 2016, colleges relied on 53% of their funding to come from the state, this is pretty substantial. When you have less education funding, the tuition rises, and they have to compensate for those budget cuts by firing faculty members or reducing the amount of courses they offer, which results in a lower quality education for the students. In Louisiana, the per student funding has fell by over 30% since 2008, 44.9% to be exact. This is the second highest per student cut since the recession. Due to funding cuts, the tuition has raised substantially in Louisiana. According to the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, Louisiana has had the largest percent increase since the recession, where tuition has doubled since 2008, which is about $4,500 more than it was then per student, which results in nearly $9,000 per year per student. These factors make college less acceptable and affordable to many people, and this is a problem especially for a state with such a low-income population. The United States Census Bureau found that in 2016, Louisiana ranked 48th out of the 50 states for median household income. Many students decide to opt out of college due to the cost, and those that do attend often have to take out loans, and which results in accumulated debt, which should not be a consequence for pursuing a higher education. To bring this problem to an end, we should not look for an existing source of revenue, but rather should create a new source of revenue. I propose the state legalization and taxation of recreational marijuana. In addition to the Louisiana sales tax, there will be a special tax placed on marijuana used solely for the funding of higher education. A great model for this is Colorado's BEST Foundation. In this plan, the first $40 million of excise tax is put into the BEST Foundation, which focuses on the quality of the buildings and education that the students are receiving. And anything over that $40 million is put into a general education fund, which goes to other education purposes. Although this model is used for primary public schooling, it can easily be related to higher education state funding. While some may argue that the legalization of marijuana will not provide enough revenue to fill this gap that we have in education funding, there are many examples in which this works. Aaron Smith of CNN reported that revenue from taxes in Colorado on marijuana sales is increased every year from $76 million in 2014 to $200 million last year. And in Washington State, marijuana tax revenue raised up to $26 million per month. If the state continues as it is, this problem will only continue to worsen. If funding for higher education continues to be cut, tuition will continue to raise and financial aid will become less available for all students. Less students will be able to afford college, which in turn makes a less educated society. This is not only detrimental to the individual by narrowing their employment options due to the increasing amount of jobs that will be requiring some type of degree, but is also very detrimental to Louisiana as a whole, because when you have less people earning degrees, that weakens your middle class because people are getting lower paying jobs, and when you weaken your middle class, you weaken your entire state economy. The benefit of a college education has never been greater than it is now, and this needs to be a priority in state funding. This lack of funding is a serious problem and will only continue to worsen if there is no solution accepted. Contact your state representative to propose the legalization of marijuana to create a new revenue to fill this gap that we have for higher education funding. Thank you.
That was better than the first time.
The first, she's